in the springtime. I had gotten a job in a show called Best Foot Forward, and I felt the job was more important than staying in school, for me. I've always felt that way. If you want to learn how to build a house, build a house. Don't ask anybody, just build a house. I think that I just went to work.
All right, welcome to Walken 101, the podcast where we watch every single Christopher Walken project in chronological order. That could be movie, TV show, play, really whatever. So each podcast, we're going to look at one thing that he's done. All right, my name is Kenny Johnson. I am a director, editor, all-around good guy. I primarily work on a lot of short documentaries, and I'm here today with Brandon Hardesty.
Yeah, hi, Brandon here. I've been acting professionally for the past 8 years or so, and I also make a web series, which Kenny helped me out with an episode recently. It's called No Small Parts, and documentary web series about character actors. And yeah, I love movies, I love acting, I love talking about it, and thought this might be a fun thing to do.
So you came to me with this idea where we're going to watch a lot of Walken movies. I mean, we're watching every single one, right? And that's 100 and some episodes, I believe, right?
According to IMDb, it would be 129 credits. Now, there's about 5 or 6 of them that are not available anywhere. We can't find them. But we're looking at a good 2 years of our lives being wasted.
Now, I believe one of them is actually hidden in the archives of Yale University, somewhere in a vault behind like a lead-plated wall
across a moat.
It's a super secret thing that no one can really get to. Apparently, we're gonna actually physically go there and watch it.
Yeah, eventually we will. We're gonna circle back to it. It's a really early project that he did. It's about, I think it was 25 minutes long, and it's only available at Yale University. Although we did find a website where it looks like there's an option to watch it.
We're going to hack into this website and somehow find it.
There's an option for a password, for WordPress.
This podcast overall is very bizarre. And it's perfectly fitting because Christopher Walken is a very bizarre man.
Yeah.
From what we've been told.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real autobiographies. There's no books really written about his life and stuff.
He may have been involved in a murder.
Yeah. We'll get to that. That's going to be a good episode. But so why did you come up with this idea?
It didn't have to be Walken. It could be any actor that you just find interesting who makes decisions and you're wondering why are they making those decisions. Mm-hmm. And Walken, maybe another example would be like Nicolas Cage. Maybe not recently, but the decisions that Nicolas Cage makes are just so out there and funny. But not looking at Walken's decisions for the sake of being funny, looking at them and picking them apart and trying to find out why he made those decisions. Because those are real reasons. We can look at Walken and laugh at his funny antics and his goofy hair and his big dead fish eyes, or the strange and menacing things that he's done. But there's a method to the madness, and I'm interested in that, and I'm interested also to simply watch someone's career from beginning to end and watch them evolve. Not just as a performer, but as a person. You make different decisions as an actor when you're younger than when you're older, and I'm interested to see all the rewatch all the classics that we know him from, but also the real obscure stuff. Like maybe he's phoned it in a few times, like maybe on Peter Pan Live. But I thought it might be interesting. I feel like no one's ever really done it before.
Yeah, and I don't know why I'm doing this. You're an actor. You have you're looking for a very specific thing in performance and stuff like that. I like making movies. I like watching movies, and I figured this is gonna be a crazy podcast to do. We could both go insane by the end of this. I don't know how we're not gonna go insane. And Hardesty has gone through and made an incredible spreadsheet of all the movies and all the roles that Walken has been in. And when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is very, very serial killer of you. I imagined him late at night, sitting there in front of the computer, TV, dark room, and just typing up all these things. And it's
just in my underwear with like lipstick and like a fake wig,
doing Walken impressions in the mirror.
I'm just like tucking my dick underneath and playing Q Lazarus in the background.
So, but like this list is incredible, and it's how many How many roles do you think we can find on your spreadsheet?
Let's see. I'd have to look at it, but
It's over 150 some things, right?
It's over that, definitely. Well, to really think about how much time you have in life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're trying to... You only have so much time to get the things you need to get done, and the fact that we're going to basically devote one day a week for the next 2 years to letting Christopher Walken into our lives, and touch our hearts,
really touch them. I mean, we're going into completely uncharted waters here. We have no idea what we're getting ourselves into.
I feel like we're going to come out the other end worse.
Probably.
There's really...
It'd be great if we could actually get him on this podcast.
Eventually, yeah.
But he seems like such a hard person to interview. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a perfect segue, because the first thing that we watched was him on Inside the Actor's Studio. And it was probably done in, I don't know, maybe 2002, 2003, late 2000s, right?
Actually, we can find out right now. Keep talking, I'll find it.
So it's perfect, because this is Walken, I guess, towards the end of his career. I don't want to say the end of his career, but later in his career. And that's when everybody has that idea of, oh, this crazy Christopher Walken, he's dancing in the Fat Boy Slim video, he's doing this. Yeah. He's become a little bit of a parody of himself.
Actually, it says 1995.
Really?
That's pretty early on.
Okay. So it's not completely in that phase yet, but it's getting there.
It's definitely getting there. It was definitely in some SNL episodes, early 90s that were kind of out there.
Because early in his career, he always kind of did play that very interesting role, but he was this revered actor, I want to say. Respected, but still like, oh, he's the quirky, kind of interesting guy.
Yeah.
But he'll do a lot of things. He'll be in those, like, I guess, Academy Award-winning pictures, but then he'll also be in very bizarre things that were borderline made-for-TV movies, I want to say. He likes to work. He really likes to work. And right?
Yeah. And now, well, first off, really, the Inside the Actor Studio, it's the most comprehensive thing you can find on him biography-wise. There's been no autobiography written by him or someone else, biography. So, like, this gives a pretty good rundown of his career and his life. But yeah, he started out as a child actor, and he says that he's been acting since he was, like, he says 1 year old at one point,
and three
at another
so
point.
We'll say he started acting when he was 2.
Let's say 2.
Okay.
And he said he grew up in performance. He grew up acting.
And the craziest thing during this Inside the Actor Studio bit, so he sits down and James Lipton, right? He's asking the questions, and Lipton is like always kind of really hamming it up and really kind of playing at the audience.
A lot of reverence,
right? Oh man! And so the audience is laughing at all these just normal things that Walken's saying. It's so like, bizarre.
So, like you grew up in New York. Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn. And then they all just laugh,
right? And it's kind of weird, because I feel like he was a little uncomfortable kind of talking about like those early childhood things, and so he would kind of like either do something weird or kind of like look at the audience. He would just kind of say something, and you'd expect for him to continue talking, and then he just stops. And he kind of like looks at the audience, and then they start laughing. And it was like, did he mean to do that, or is he kind of like, because he came from live theater, he knows how to kind of read the audience. He probably looked at the audience and was like, oh, maybe this is kind of boring. Let me just kind of do a little walk-in thing, look at the audience, and then they laugh. And then he feels comfortable.
Yeah.
So going back to the whole thing, he is a performer, not an actor. Think of him as a performer. And what was his favorite line? Lipton said his favorite line ever.
Oh, yeah. His favorite line in any play, any work of, stage or anything, film, TV, is a line. It's the first line from Hamlet. And it's, "Who's there?" And he talks about that, and the audience is like laughing because again they're coming to him thinking he's this kind of weird, funny guy. And he goes, "It's very mysterious. It's very anything can happen." Right. And then he stops talking, and then they all laugh.
Right. That's very Christopher Walken. Who's there? Yeah. Who's there? Who's driving the ship in his brain, in his world right now?
And what is interesting is that people are laughing at first, and then maybe 20 minutes into the interview, people kind of stop laughing because like, oh, okay, that's very serious.
Right. And there's a lot of really good stuff, especially at the beginning of this. Now, we found this clip. Where do we find it on?
Well, what's interesting is you can't. I guess there are some episodes of Inside the Actor Studio that are not readily available. You can't. They're not on any instant like Amazon or Hulu. There are some compilation DVDs, but you can't find Christopher Walken's interview anywhere except for on this Chinese website, tudao.com.
Tudao.
Which I think it should be a sponsor.
Yeah, if you're listening out there, Tudao, would you sponsor this podcast, please?
And Tudao is like anything that is any website like YouTube, Hulu, or well, I guess mainly YouTube prevents copyright material from being uploaded. Tudao, like it's somehow you can't get it off. You can't get it off Tudao.com no matter how hard.
This is a big plug for Tudao, by the way. This is a big plug.
Yeah, so we found it seems like a shortened version of the Inside the Actor Studio episode because there was no mention of Deer Hunter, no mention of
Annie Hall
or
like
Pulp Fiction.
Big, yeah.
So there seems to be big gaps in it, but I feel like we got the general gist.
Right, and like we're saying, like this is the first kind of episode. We want to overview. We really want to talk about point A. Where's Walken? And this is great. This is so great watching the Inside the Actor Studio. Because late in his career, right? He's late in his career. Everybody's got this certain perception of him, explaining early life. So there's these blurred lines here, of who is Christopher Walken, who's there, and that's what we're trying to find out with this podcast. He also had a lot of really interesting quotes and a lot of interesting lines. One of them was, in terms of acting, it was just build a house.
Yeah, I thought that was great. That's something I've heard before is if you want to learn how to do something, if you want to learn how to build a house, just build a house. And he cited that because he went to school, but he really saw more value in work. I believe he said he had a job and it was a choice between continue going to school or work the job. And he decided that the job was more important. And really, you can learn so much more from, again, it's real life experience. If you want to learn how to do something, just do it and you will learn. You will fall on your face many times and you will pick yourself back up and figure out how to actually do it.
And I think he even said something about that in regards to when he was as a child actor. He would say his lines, he would sometimes forget them and fall flat on his face. And you have to cope with that. You have to learn that, and you have to kind of, okay, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to be a performer. This is what it's like to kind of feel that okay, I messed up thing. Another interesting thing he was talking about was, I guess he was doing his performance right at this, what was the theater? I can't remember the name of the theater, but it was like very early on. He was explaining he'd worked there forever, just kind of in the background, and he finally auditioned. After years of working there for maybe 10 years, he went and auditioned for a play. He got in, and he was doing his performance on stage, and I guess somebody had dropped a stack of plates or something in the background, backstage, and he didn't react to it at all. He just kept doing his role. He just kept saying his lines. He kept doing this. And then I guess the director or coach took him aside.
Oh, yeah, this was Lee Strasberg.
Yes.
This is the Actors Studio.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So they took him aside and said, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you react to it? And he said, well, Walken said, I was too busy concentrating. Too busy concentrating on my lines, being the actor on stage. And I guess Lee was like, that's completely wrong. You shouldn't do that. You have to react to things because it's real life. Life keeps going and you have to react to that in some way, and that's
and that's great advice for actors. Like you're in a scene. Christopher Walken talks about this. You're talking to somebody, and one of you knocks over a glass of water. It's weird not to acknowledge the glass of water. You both reach for it, and you continue doing the lines. The lines come alive in that moment because something spontaneous happened. And he called it happy accidents, which is something that my acting teacher in L.A., Dennis Laval, he always talks about happy accidents, and they happen all the time. When we were doing scenes, something would happen, and then you play it. And if you don't play it, then he pointed out you should have played that.
And he talked a lot about bringing personal experience to each role. He said that he doesn't know anybody else. He just knows himself. And I definitely feel like he brings a lot of his own natural whatever to each role. So, when a director or casting agent hires Christopher Walken, they should know, like, you're going to get Christopher Walken in some way.
Yeah.
It's your ability to use him in whatever way sees fit. So he also talks about thinking out loud, right? Like kind of like an improv thing. I guess it's like an improv thing, and you were explaining it how you just when you go through and you rehearse, you're the character, but you're thinking out loud. You're not really doing the lines that are on the page, right?
Yeah. Like what you do, what my acting teacher also, I think my acting teacher got a lot of stuff from Christopher Walken, honestly, because they both went to the actor's studio, and my acting teacher called it the subtext exercise. And what you do is you're in a scene with somebody, but in between your lines, maybe before the other person's talking and after they talk, you are saying out loud exactly what you're thinking. And that is what that does is it shows that you are really thinking as the character. Like if somebody's watching a scene and they can see that the actor's not thinking anything, it really comes across. And it also helps you find out what your motivation is. Why are you saying this line? Are you saying it because you're nervous? Are you saying it because you're angry? Are you sad? Why are you saying a particular line? And it forces you to find a reason when you have to say it out loud, say what you're thinking as the character. And the camera sees it. It really does.
Right. Towards the end of the Inside the Actor's Studio, they always do this question and answer thing.
Oh, yes. It's the when the Will Ferrell sketches, he would say, we have the questionnaire from Le Pampa.
Yeah.
And, what is your favorite curse word? To which Christopher Walken said, darn.
Right.
Which I think he was looking for a laugh with that.
Right. He was totally hamming it up at this point.
Yeah.
At a certain point in the interview, you could see that, when he's talking about his childhood and early and stuff, he was kind of bored. I don't know if he was bored or he just didn't really want to talk about it. But then once he started talking about acting, it's like that's when it totally kicked into another gear. That's when it became, a completely different thing. And that's when you kind of got this very honest look at him. But then towards the end, when you do the question, the main questions, it turned back into the performer.
Some of it was, but I felt he was really being honest with some of the questions.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Like when they, and this brings up another thing we wanted to talk about, where James Lipton said, "What is your favorite word?" And he goes, "Lunch."
Right.
Referring to just on set, the scene's over, lunch.
Right.
And then his what turns you on?
Turns him on. Yeah.
Work. And what turns you off? Work.
Right.
Which brings us, people always say, especially people who want to be artists or people who are currently artists in some capacity, they'll always say, well, you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life.
And that's total bullshit.
That is 100% bullshit.
100% bullshit.
Because there is always work involved. It doesn't, I love acting. I don't care how much I love it. When I hear lunch, I get so excited. I get excited that the day's over. It's actually exhausting.
Yeah, it is. And even when I'm editing or working on a movie or whatever like that, there'll be parts where I'm so frustrated. And I absolutely hate it. I hate movies sometimes. I absolutely hate it. And I hate editing. But I'll think, I'll be driving in the car the next day and I'll be thinking, oh man, maybe I'll work on this or I'll do this. And I get excited. And I can't wait to get back and work on this stuff. It's
like a constant tug of war.
Right.
It's like this love-hate thing, and I think that's reality. You're not going to love something you do 100% of the time.
No, and Walken, I kind of got the impression that acting, it is a love. He loves doing it. He loves being in movies and theater and all that, but it's still a job to him at the end of the day. It's still like I'm gonna go in. I love working. I love doing it. I may hate doing it. I may hate like it's a job.
Yeah.
I hate that it's a job. But he goes in, and some of these kids that were towards the end, and when they're asking him questions about how to act, and they really want to pick apart his brain and do all this.
Yeah.
And he just kind of says these things very nonchalantly, like okay, so we set up the camera, he did this shot and that shot, and then we were done for the day.
Yeah, like he talks about what a lot of people would consider an iconic scene from True Romance between him and Dennis Hopper. Mm-hmm. The way he describes it is, they shot him, and then they turn around, they shot me, and we shot it in a day, and then we all went home.
Right.
Because in his mind, he doesn't look. When he did that scene, he wasn't thinking, "Wow, this is great. I wonder what's going to happen with this movie. I bet it's going to be big. I'm going to be a big star." It's like he had already been through the mill with projects that were huge and projects that didn't do anything. So it was just another day of work for him. But then, it's not what we see. It's a different perspective.
Right. And these kids were almost like you were saying, like they're trying to reverse engineer him.
Yeah, so like with the things that Christopher Walken does naturally in a role, and James Lipton even has he questions like, did you use sense memory or anything? And
right.
It's like, I think, I think there's some actors do that. Maybe they don't label it, but they just do that.
Right.
And I think that's what he does. He does all these things that people like Lee Strasberg and other acting teacher greats have gone back and studied acting and reverse engineered performances and broken it down to subsections and lesson plans. And that's what these kids are doing. All of these students at the actor studio, and they're all asking very specific questions and trying to learn. They're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to this studio. Maybe some of them are scholarshiped in. I don't know, but what Christopher Walken did was, if you want to learn how to build a house, just build a house. Like that's what he did, instead of sitting there taking notes. And I mean, I guess there is some value to going to an acting school.
There is, and I think it definitely helped him.
Yeah, of course.
I think he feeds a lot more on his intuition.
Yeah,
natural kind of gut.
Intuition instead of trying to
overanalyze it.
Yeah,
really, he doesn't. I don't think he really lives in his head as much as people think. I think he just does it. Just goes and does it, and that's a hard thing to do, I guess, as an actor, right? You're as an actor, I'm imagining you're always trying to think about this and overanalyze that, and I should have done this, I should have done that.
Yeah, I
think Walken just goes and does it. He he is just out there. He's going to jump off the cliff, and hopefully he has a parachute.
Yep,
that's it. Okay, so that was the Inside the Actors Studio edition, the quick, down and dirty overview of who we think Walken is as a person, as an actor.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think our perception of him? How do you think our perception of him is going to change? Let's say down the road of this, because this could be 150 some episodes. Episode 1 here, we go in, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, thinking like, oh man, there's all these great feelings and all these things that we learned from Walken. What do you think, or what do you hope to learn from this?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like after watching the Inside the Actor Studio, I'd seen it before. It's been a long time, and I feel like watching this, I feel like that's all I need to know. I don't know. I feel like he seems like, and he's described himself as this very just kind of conservative guy, and he lives in the country with his wife, simple. And they have a cat. It's like this very simple, ordinary life,
right?
And he just has this fun job, and he just makes fun decisions sometimes. So I feel like I have a good sense of who he is as a person. What I'm interested in is, as we go along, seeing the strange decisions that he makes in some of these movies. And a lot of people might, after watching him on Saturday Night Live, they'll watch him in an obscure clip from a movie and they'll think, oh man, he's being so weird.
Right.
But what I'm interested in is picking those things apart and seeing that there's actual technique behind it. He actually thought about something before he did it. He didn't just think, wow, I'm just gonna be weird today. Like, I don't think he ever says that. Arguably, maybe with the Peter Pan Live thing, I'm so excited to get to that episode about 2 years from now.
Right. I have not seen it, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I for one, I'm gonna come from this, I guess, as a director. I've done some theater and stage stuff, and I've kind of played around with acting in the past, and I've had fun with it. But I'm not nearly as in front of the camera or on the stage as Brandon is over here. But I'm looking at it more from, why? Why did he do this? Why did he choose this role? Mm-hmm. Why did he do this one movie? I mean, honestly, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
I will admit that now. And I'll probably get so bored and probably frustrated and irritated because I can only take so much of the same thing.
Right.
Especially with walking, because I feel like it's a lot of it gets to the point where it's a lot of the same thing.
Yeah, this may be an awful idea.
Yeah, we don't know.
So, but our goal is to every episode we have just watched another Christopher Walken movie,
right?
And we'll just dissect it,
right?
and with a sizable IMDb page like he has, this will, I may have children going into college by the time we finish this.
Yeah. We may regret this. And then we'll do another one on, let's say, Dustin Hoffman or Meryl Streep next. Who knows?
Yeah.
So what are some of the first couple of roles that we can look forward to dissecting, hopefully in the next episode? What are we looking for? You got your spread. We'll pull up your spreadsheet here.
Let me pull up the spreadsheet.
Let's
in a minute here.
It's carefully organized because he even picked out quotes. He picks out if it's available for rent, if we can get it from where, and all this.
So I have columns, like I have it in chronological order. I have the title. I have whatever medium it was, if it was TV or short film or a movie.
Right.
I have whether or not it is available at all. There are a few no's early on because they're obscure things.
Right.
If it is available, where can we find it? If we can find it somewhere, for how much? Any links, and if there are any funny quotes or interesting factoids about the particular project. So, really, the first a few IMDb credits are him as a child actor. You have the wonderful John Acton, like the Colgate Comedy Hour, and they're both in 1953. And there are small clips of those on YouTube. He appears very fleetingly with Jerry Lewis in something, and then and that's it. Maybe has one line or nothing. Something called the Motorola Television Hour, probably more like that. The Boy Who Saw Through, which is the mysterious DVD that's sitting in the Ark of the Covenant at Yale University.
At Yale.
There is, after that, there are 2 episodes of a crime drama called The Naked City that he appeared in. And although we can't find the full episodes unless we buy the DVDs on Amazon for $19.04, there are clips of him on YouTube that someone just filmed the TV. But we're looking for... We'd like to watch the whole thing just for context before we even comment on it.
For pure context and madness.
Yes.
We don't want to just watch the clips. We want to experience the whole ride.
Yeah, like if we're going to do Pulp Fiction, it'd be easy to, because we both just know the movie so well.
He's in one scene.
Same
with Annie Hall, one scene. No, we're watching the whole thing.
Whole movie. Really, the first project that we can watch, probably the next episode, will be a movie called Me and My Brother. And it's available on Vimeo for free. Some just wacko just decided to upload it for no reason. And
that was me, actually.
To our benefit.
I uploaded that.
And that would be the first project the first project that we can talk about. It was a movie made in 1969. There's a number of other people in it. Christopher Walken looks like he's a very secondary character.
Right.
May appear in it for 5 minutes.
And I guess a good format for the show is, because we're still learning as we're going here. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into, like I've said a million times. But a good format could be, we come in, we describe the movie, we describe our initial thoughts, and then we go into, okay, Christopher Walken. Okay, what do we think of him in this? And it could be very short analysis.
Yeah.
Or it could be very long. We don't know. And we could talk about tons of other things too.
Yeah.
Because at the time, when was his first one? In the 50s or so?
When was this?
Yeah. When was the first one?
This one, his very first project was 1953, officially on IMDb. He said he did other things before that.
Right. But the first one where you can watch on Vimeo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is 1969.
Okay. This is a very interesting point, probably, in his life. Do we have any biographies or autobiographies that we know of that we can also...
I looked for one, and there really is. That's why I just fell back to the Inside the Actor Studio episode. That seems to be the most comprehensive thing we could find in Christopher Walken at this point. There's no official biography he's written. There's really nothing out there besides interviews and Inside the Actor Studio.
And the interviews are always so strange, because interviewing people is one of the weirdest things you can do in life, because you're still... not really getting to know the person exactly.
They may be there to promote something.
The person is telling you what they want you to hear, or no, they're saying what they want to basically say. They're gonna do it their certain way, and that's with Walken. Walken is very much like, I have to live up to this Walken persona. I'm only gonna give you the Walken persona, so you're gonna get that. And you could definitely see that in the Inside the Actor Studio. Like when he first arrived, it was just like, hey everybody, like I'm the Walken from SNL,
Yeah, it reminds me of, there was one episode of SNL he hosted where he came out and you could tell that he's reveling in this persona that people see of him, where he comes out and he goes, I love doing skits and crazy make-em-ups,
right?
And then he kind of smiles to himself because he sounded so silly saying it, and everybody laughed. Like he knows it,
right? He knows it. Okay, so I guess we're getting kind of the close here. We'll ask this question.
Okay.
First episode. So do you have a favorite Walken movie performance thing that he's done? What's your favorite thing that he's done?
It's hard to pin it down. I also haven't seen some iconic ones. Like I haven't seen The Deer Hunter. I'm looking forward to watching that.
That's a great one.
I mean, one movie that I'm really looking forward to watching, and really the movie's horrible, but I love watching him. He's so much fun to watch in it because the things that he's doing, it looks like these are things that he talks about. This is how he explored it in rehearsal, but for some reason they just filmed it and made that the final product instead of hashing it out.
Right.
Is a movie called Communion, where he plays, it's based on a quote-unquote true story about a science fiction writer who was abducted by aliens.
Okay.
And he plays the lead. He's abducted by aliens. It's the things that he does in that movie are so fucking out there. I can't even... There's a compilation of it, like 10 minutes on YouTube, but it doesn't even do it justice. There's so many... He's just so much fun to watch. There are moments that are genuinely good, of spontaneity. Like, there's a scene where we'll talk about this when we do the episode about a year and a half from now. But there's like a scene where he's in bed with his wife, and they're just kind of like... the scene opens up and he has his glasses on upside down, and he's just like riffing with her. He goes, come on, say a dirty word, say something dirty, say penis. He says something like that, and it's such a fun, spontaneous moment between with your husband and his wife just having fun, like in bed before they go to sleep.
Oh man.
But then there are other moments in it where it's like, what the fuck is he doing? And I think it goes back to something that he said. You can watch two actors doing a scene and not know what they're talking about, but what's more important is that you know that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's him in that movie. There's some things where like, I don't know what's going on, but I know that he knows what's going on, and that's enough. So anyway, that might be one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I guess maybe ironically, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to that one.
I've seen a bunch of his movies, and it's normally not by like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie because it has Walken in it. I'm going to watch this movie because it's a great movie.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stinkers. I will admit that. But one interesting one is very late in his career. It's Catch Me If You Can.
Right. I've also never seen that one.
And it's such an unusual role because well, not unusual. I would say it's very standard because late in his career, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has that. Okay, Walken.
Yeah, this is 2002, probably.
Right. Yeah. I know who Walken is. Right. His character is, he is plays Leonardo DiCaprio's father, and he's kind of this charming, man. But then he ends up going through this divorce and everything and stuff like that. The character was so charming that back in the day, he kind of nabbed this beautiful woman who is Leonardo DiCaprio's mother. And it's like, he would always tell that story, like all these other guys would go up to her and ask her to dance, but they could never have any luck. I'm the guy who ended up taking that girl home. So like he was that charming kind of character. And that's very, very Walken-esque, he's got that little bit of charm to him, kind of weird. But then in the movie too, he kind of becomes a little bit of a loser. He ends up losing a lot of things in his shop and all this, and but he always kind of keeps his kind of bright perspective. He's trying to keep happy. He's trying to do this. He's trying to do that. But he's kind of this. I don't want to say loser, but he kind of is. Mm-hmm. He didn't live the life that he thought he would, and I don't know. I just always really liked that role. It's Walken in a very little dose. It's perfect. It's so perfect because they capture the essence of who he is, but it doesn't go overboard.
Right.
It's very subtle, and it's so good because I think he even got nominated for an Academy Award in that movie.
Maybe.
I don't know for sure, but he got a lot of good. And this, once again, late in his career, everybody's like, Christopher Walken. That like, oh geez, all right, here's this nutty dude. And they saw it, I'm like, oh, I really like this. This is actually really good. This brings a lot to the role. I really like this. And that's what I feel like Walken is. He's so good at being like that little supporting role.
Yeah.
And bringing so much. And he's not distracting. Some roles I feel like he's distracting. Mm-hmm. He's crazy and nutty and all of this, and you're like, oh, it's Christopher Walken, we love him, he's so crazy with his stupid hair, and he's gonna tap dance now,
he's gonna talk in a strange way,
right? I guess he takes out all the periods and commas, right? Isn't that an urban legend that he goes through the script and take out all the periods and commas and
takes out all the punctuation because he thinks it's limiting? I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, we'll find out.
I like what you just said reminded me of a movie I didn't think about that he did, A Late Quartet. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's that's a pretty recent one, right?
Yeah, he plays. I believe he plays the cello in like a string quartet.
Yeah.
And that's another example of like it is a real just nice and subdued Christopher Walken, very subtle, and he just plays it really well. It's none of the nuttiness, and the nuttiness can be fun.
Exactly,
but it's fun to see somebody go back to doing subtle things when they're known for something else for so long. So
right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So this is Walken 101.
Yep.
Please come along with us on this journey. You're gonna have to, because our favorite movies are towards the end of his career, and that could be a couple of years from now. So you have to listen. You have to just join in with us, and we're gonna hopefully get maybe we'll bring in some guests. We'll take some maybe requests or some. We'll do a lot of cool things. We're we don't know where we're going with this. And that seems so perfect. Because that is Christopher Walken. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know where he's going. We don't know where we're going with this podcast. But all right, so this is the first episode. Please join us. The next episode we're gonna be hopefully looking at, what was the name of the movie again?
The name of the movie is Me and My Brother from 1969.
Okay, great. So that's the next thing we're gonna be looking at. So join us next time. Thanks for listening. And make sure you subscribe, you like the podcast, you download it, share it with friends, all that good stuff. So thanks again for joining us, fans, audience members, random people listening.